And in the next move, black will go for knight to e4. So to stop this, here Capablanca brings his knight back to d2, covering this e4 square so that this knight can't enter, but simply bishop to b4, creating pressure over this knight on c3. And you can see in the next move, black is going to push this pawn further. To stop this, here Capablanca goes for. Okay, so here some of you might be thinking of the move b5 which attacks this knight, but guys, that will be a mistake because of knight to a5. And you can see in the next move, white is threatening to capture on b5, taking benefit of this pinned c6 pawn. So in the actual game, after the move b6, and here black can continue this game by the move knight to d5. And obviously white cannot capture this knight due to this pinned knight. So that's why, let's suppose if he adds an extra defense like rook to c1. Now comes knight takes c3, queen takes c3, and finally c5. Targeting this pawn chain, b takes c5, b takes c5, d takes c5, and yes, black can recapture this pawn by bishop. But before that, here black can go for bishop to a4, attacking this rook, but simply rook to d3, and finally queen takes c5. And in the next move, bishop to b5 might be possible, creating more pressure towards the white pieces. But in the actual game, after rook at f goes to d1, and now white can push this pawn to e4 with the idea of e5, but Capablanca goes for. And after that, queen to b8, getting out from the range of this knight. And you can see black is now to capture on e3 with the idea of bishop takes e3 check. So that's why. Okay, so after that, queen to e7. Basically, he wants to push this pawn to c5. But guys, let me go back to the move queen takes c3. Basically, in this position, here black can directly go for the move c5, which is basically a good move. But some of you might be worried about the move b takes c5, and you can see black now cannot recapture with this pawn due to this pin. So how is white going to continue this game? Basically, the first move which black can go for is bishop to c6, creating pressure over this e4 pawn. So that's why simply rook to e1, defending this pawn. But guys, bishop to f6 is now possible, targeting this d4 pawn, and suddenly you can see black is targeting the small potholes of white. And obviously, white cannot push this pawn to e5 due to this undefended bishop. So that's why the only best move is knight to e5. Okay, but simply bishop takes c5, d takes e5. And at the end, you can see this damaged pawn structure of white. And now black has this open d file for this rook, and you can see by all of this, black is better. Okay, so in the actual game, after queen to e7, okay, so now in this position here, Capablanca goes for knight to e5, preparing for a knight to g4 so that he can target this bishop and damage the pawn structure of black. So it's better for black to go for g5, through which he can place his queen on g5 if this happens. But instead he goes for the move g6, which is also fine, creating an escaping square for this bishop. And now in this position, Capablanca goes for knight to g4, which is basically now not required. Instead, the move knight to c4 might be the better option, keeping the knight on the queen side as well as maintaining the blockade against these pawns, and which also keeps black position cramped. and after that c4, trying to deflect this queen so that black can capture this bishop. But Capablanca simply goes for a4. Basically, he is trying to deflect this bishop so that he can somehow bring his rook to the 7th rank. Okay, so now queen to c5, preparing for queen to b4 so that he can exchange the queens and connect these pawns. And you can see the threat. So to stop this, here queen to b6 by Alekhine, and now it's better to bring this rook on d7 so that he can target on f7 pawn. But he made a mistake by queen to d7. Basically, he is targeting this rook, but here Alekhine finds the best move, queen to c5. And you can see now black is close to promotion. So that's why now he has to be defensive. He brings his rook to e4. And now here black must consider the move queen to f3 so that he can mate on h1 square, but instead he goes for another check. And after that king to h7. But guys, instead he must consider the move queen to f3, and now for white it's better to go for rook to e7 with the idea of going to e6, taking benefit of this pinned f7 pawn. But instead he made a mistake by the move queen to c4. Basically he is asking for queen exchange, but no need, simply queen to f2 check, and king to h3, queen to g1. And black is now threatening to mate, so to stop this, rook to e2. And now there is a continuation for black, which starts with the move queen to h1 check, rook to h2, queen to b1 check. And let's suppose if white captured this c3 pawn by queen takes c3, queen to f5 check, king to g2, rook to c8, attacking this queen, simply queen to e1, rook to c2 check, king to h1, queen to d5 check, king to g1, queen to c5 check, rook to f2, rook to c1, and yup, that's all. But after the move rook to e2, here black made a mistake by giving a check, which is basically not required. And finally queen takes c6. And now I just want you all to pause the video and try to find the only move which can save this game for white. And if you find the move rook to c2, then congratulations, you are a genius. Because we all know that it's obvious that this passed c pawn is the only hope for black through which he is winning. And since in the next move we are going to capture it, now there is no more advantage left for black. But guys, after queen takes f6, white missed this move and instead he made a mistake by a5. And now you can see the move queen to f1 is winning, but white is winning. Let me know in the comments. Okay, but instead here Alekhine goes for rook to d8. Okay, now a6, but simply queen to f1 pinning this rook, and obviously white now cannot capture this. Okay, so that's why queen to e4, rook to d2, asking for rook exchange, rook takes d2, c takes d2, and now no one can stop this promotion. So a7, d1 equal to queen, 8 equal to queen. Now both sides have a queen, but it's too late. Simply queen to g1 check, king to h3, queen at d goes to f1 check, and in this position Capablanca resigned because the only move is queen to g2, and finally queen to h1 checkmate, because obviously you cannot capture this due to this, and we are already giving a check. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.